Zone 72 is made possible with support from Global Affairs Canada. Well, to comment on today's program, you'll be calling us on our studio line, that is 0911 or 0922 986 986, and for text message, send to 0913 986 986. You can also stream this broadcast live by logging onto our website, which is www.iradio.org, or on our Facebook page, that is iRadio. You can also go to our YouTube channel to get this live stream on iRadio South Sudan. If you have questions about adolescent health, send us an email to youthzone72 or call 0922-009497. We have two hotlines and they're toll free. If you want to report on GBV, you can call 623. And if you want to report on adolescent health immediate, you can call 885. Today we'll be looking at a very interesting topic, which is micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, which plays a crucial role in South Sudan's economy, providing employment opportunities and fostering innovation. However, they face significant challenges, including limited access to finance, weak infrastructure and political instability. And to shed more light on our topic today, I'm joined live in the studio by Elijah Manyok, who is an entrepreneur and founder of SADU, which is Smile Again Africa Development Organization. Good evening.
Good evening.
It's good to have you in the studio.
Thank you, Barry Johnson.
Yes, mustameta iRadio alana ground su kalamta micro, small, medium sized enterprises. Kalte gani garip ma radio taki ashan badin tabasa du guest na fi dakhil studio. Sual taki kanta shapi na gasma wita indunia mul business lakin ta marfuta bibada min wen alana brasma Janita Elijah وممكن be inspired عشان كمان تبعمل نفس حاجة. So Elijah, going straight to our discussion, can you share with us your journey being a refugee to founding your organization, and how have you been successfully transitioning from humanitarian sector to private sector?
Oh, thank you so much, Barry Johnson, and all the listeners of iRadio, in particular the Zone 72 program. Mm-hmm. I'm happy to be here for the third time.
Yes.
And Zone 72 youth program. I think I'm in a difficult situation trying to compact a 30 years journey in a kind of a less than 1 hour interview. So
yes.
It's a very difficult intervention to do. Mm. Yeah, but all in all is that I am Elijah. I'm Elijah Manyok. I'm an entrepreneur myself, and I've been in the business world. I've been in the humanitarian world for a long time, and also in the public life. Yeah, personally, I was born here in South Sudan, and during the long war of, the liberation war, I found myself one of the members or communities that were displaced. I found my ways across different countries into the northern part of Kenya, in one of the refugee camps known as the Kakuma refugee camp. I think I arrived there toward the end of 1994, and I stayed there for quite a while, for about 13 years. And as a young child and refugee, then of course, as like any other South Sudanese refugee child, life wasn't that easy, and it was full of experience that weren't very much pleasant. However, it was an opportunity that many children that were within the territories of South Sudan then couldn't found. So I was grateful. It took up some roles. I completed most of my basic education, including primary school and secondary school in the refugee camp before returning to South Sudan. I think upon returning to South Sudan, early 2007, I got myself into much of humanitarian work, having worked with different UN agencies, international organizations, including CRS, Save the Children. I worked for USAID. Briefly, I worked for World Food Program for quite a while. And of course, the whole driving force behind has been the fact that as a human being who had been supported by others, I got a helping hand from the humanitarian community and the donors community. As a refugee then, I felt it was imperative upon me to return the favor and support the people who are the most vulnerable across the country. One thing became strikingly clear as we were moving toward the independence of South Sudan. And one of the things that really inspires me was the element of trying to move out of aid dependency and try to support, create youth empowerment to ensure that at least the young people are able to, we could, design programs that could help young people be self-reliant and come out of aid dependency and the abject poverty. So I got inspired, I think, by 2009 and talked to a couple of friends, asked them about the ideas, and shared with them about the idea of coming up with this Smile Again Africa Development Organization. The naming alone came from the fact that I was doing my own self-reflection as a child. In most cases, children, when they do not know the difference between conflict and the suffering that they go through, it is common among the toddlers, the children that are newly born, to be happy with their mothers once they breastfeeding and all this. So all the smiles and the beautiful life that they are expecting and the hopes that they have for the future are normally like they're full of hopes. And given the circumstances, for the case of South Sudan in particular, much of this hope are cut short by different level of conflicts and violence, and then they would cry, and it will, for my case, it was cut short when I was very young, and I spent much of my time as a refugee, and when I came back, I got myself also struggling. So the whole idea of coming up with Smile Again was to try as much as possible to build something that would create a smile in the face of the young South Sudanese across the country, and support them in terms of by giving them skills and maybe giving them the economic power so that they are able to serve themselves and their communities. So that's the thing behind why I thought it was important. So I quit my last job. And then I said, okay, let me try this in 2011. So I came, we put up SADO, Smile Again Africa Development Organization, and of course the whole objective was to work with communities to ensure that they are self-reliant, and especially young people. And that's why you might have seen from their slogan is they say youth against poverty. It's an idea of trying to have youth in the front line on the fight against poverty and ensuring that the lives and livelihoods of the young people are improved across the country. So thankfully, of course, years later, with the story iRadio knows and many other actors knows, SADO became, I think, one of the largest national organizations in the country at some point. Supporting more than 1 million people across the country and operating in about over 10 states, in all the 10 states in South Sudan at some point. So that's briefly how from being a refugee to being a social entrepreneur.
Okay, we also understand that you are stepping up for the Bor Community Youth Association chairmanship. If you can take us through that and what inspired you to take that step.
Yeah, I think this is a very good question. During my time as the executive director at SADO, I think a critical thing that I've focused on, I've been trying to build small and medium-sized micro enterprises across the communities by providing loans, providing trainings, and providing the serving and credit facilities for many women and young men in Juba and across the country. And there's one particular element that is very difficult really to tease out if you're not embedded in the community leadership and the community structures, and that is the behavioral change. And the behavioral change in youth in terms of how you actually engage with them to ensure that they embrace the culture of self-reliance, they embrace the culture of accepting empowerment, and they embrace the culture of being at the center of decision-making processes in their own communities. So I think this idea of BCYA contest came as a result of seeing that gap and wanting actually to ensure that as much as we try to do some bit of empowerment with the community, it will be easy actually to sit there, design policies that actually help young people to move out of the comfort zones, in a sense, some young men and women that are very young and they've chosen different routes that are not really productive to them. So it gives me an opportunity to really interact with them on a daily basis for the next 2 years, to try as much as possible to shape what could be the future of Boer community youth. And the current leadership that will be going down, I think I was also an advisor in that leadership. And I've tried structurally to change the structure and how the structure of the organization, BCYA, works, and how it could be designed to help the community, empower themselves and be in a position to place themselves for purpose of development, progress.
Okay, if you can also take us through some of the challenges you faced, when starting Smile Again, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, with the establishment of SADO, I think there were a couple of challenges. One of which being when you're starting anything new, of course, lack of confidence among the donor communities, among the partners, UN agencies, or whether this one will work or not. That's the first thing. Even in your own family, you will find people doubting that this is not going to work. And especially for somebody like myself, who was a career man and who had good jobs with big international organization, UN agencies, and then resigning to start something from scratch where I will have no salary to support my family and so on. So it was one of the biggest decisions that I made in my life, and I think I actually faced some bit of resistance even within my own family. That's where the challenges start from itself, by itself. And then definitely building an institution from scratch to something that will be really powerful. It's not an easy task. So looking at the structural development of the organization, looking at designing policies and programs for the organization, looking at trying to sell these organizations to the community. On the other side, trying to sell it also to the donors and partners. There are critical challenges that come with them, and they're significant enough. And if you are determined and you understand the goal and the vision of why you need this done, you will find that this particular challenge becomes lower than the cost of doing this. So the end then justify the means. So you will definitely continue to prosper with that.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Thank you so much. And what do you think are the obstacles that faces either small, micro or medium-sized enterprises, and how can they be overcome?
Small and the medium-sized micro enterprises, I'll talk about. I'll not talk about the global standards, but I'll talk about the specifics across South Sudan, and more specifically Juba. Small and medium-sized micro enterprises have a lot of obstacles, and one of the critical obstacles is the financing, lack of financing. There are no financial institutions across the country that provide opportunities for the small and micro enterprises to either access grants or access loans or any kind of finances. If you go to the market today trying to start, let's say, a tea business, you will need to you will be required to have at least a place for you to put up that business. You will need to buy a kettle or some few chairs, all those kind of stuff. So all this, if you go with the current situation of Juba, you will find that the only place you could get loan is from people that will charge you
with an interest
50 to 100% a month. We're not talking about a year, 50 to 100% a month. So if a business would be small and would be started at $100 minimum, you would be expected to pay back $200 or $150 in a month. I have never seen in my entire life a business where you make 50 or 100% in profits a month. So it beats the understanding of anybody who understands business or trade to really know that you are going to do a business that is going to give you a return on investment of about 50 to 100%. So it's completely unacceptable. So you'll find that becomes the biggest obstacle for many young people who have a lot of ideas but could not thrive because there are no financial institutions to be able to fund this. So that's one of the critical things.
So is it lack of trust? They don't. There is lack of trust to give loans or grants to these young people to start a business. What is the problem?
It's a system problem. It's a system problem because the banking system here in South Sudan, literally, I'm sorry to say this, but it's my own interpretation and my own personal feelings. All the banks in South Sudan are forex. Then they're literally not banks. Why? Because in the developed world or in the developed economies or in the developing world at least, the banks are purely financial institutions that create resources, that create money, revenue, as a result of getting out their own money to people that are going to generate more money. That's the whole thing. That's the whole idea of banking. But for the case of South Sudan, there's no any loans. There are no. It's very difficult to get loans, and also it's also reasonable because I had interrogate some of my bankers at the highest level, some of the CEOs, and they seem to convince me because the biggest worries are the questions around the securities, the collaterals, for example. What do you have that guarantees the loan? Some of them are talking about the land, for example. How many title deeds do we have for lands in Juba? You find that many of the lands in Juba do not have title deeds, they're original title deeds. And we're talking about the 1972 here. These are the only few that have the titles. Also, the restrictness of the judicial system and how it works. One example is your vehicle logbook, for example. If you have a car that have a logbook that expires, then it becomes a question. And how hard is it to change the name on the logbook? So in other countries, if you have a car and a logbook is a permanent asset. So, and it can be taken in by the bank, and you get a loan on that grantee. So, it's a systematic problem, and which can only be addressed at the policy level by the government, at the judiciary level, to ensure that the banks are in a position to have trust and confidence that it needs a loan of $10,000. She literally have a piece of land that can be protected by the judicial system and can be worth that much based on the valuation by the bank. And it could actually make sense later on if the bank is able to retain that asset if Barry Johnson fails. So those are the complexities that comes around the issues around the loans and financing in South Sudan.
So is it only the financing challenge that you think is the problem, or there are other challenges beside that?
Well, yeah, when we talk about business, of course, if you have a financial challenge, we are already talking about 50% chances of that business are out of the question. And then the rest of the challenges that comes with them include issues around securities in Juba, depending on what kind of business you're doing. Other challenges could be the lack of skills themselves or lack of knowledge that is required for you to run such a small and medium enterprise, businesses, which is where many organizations and youth empowerment programs come in and try to build some skills, like technical skills. Like, for example, if you want to start up a salon, it would be much easier for you to have learned the art of plating itself and then setting up a salon. So you become self-employed and you become a business owner. So it's different from being a business owner and then hiring everybody else. You will not maximize the profits, and the chances for your growth become limited. So lack of skills, lack of financial capacities are also challenges. The issues around insecurity at some point, the Toronto boys named them, and some other challenges we're facing.
Okay, all right. And what would you tell a young person listening right now with no money, no connection, and above all, even an idea or a business idea, or where to start?
Yeah, I think it is difficult to really say that somebody will lack everything, including an idea, because you may not have the money, you may not have the business itself, but at least there are some ideas that are lingering in your mind, and as a normal human being that see the gaps. What I can encourage mostly the young people is, money itself actually is a reward of solving someone else's problem. So it comes as a result of you trying to solve a certain problem for somebody, and that somebody buys your services or your goods. And so having seen that, you always look for an opportunity. You will find that the young men in our area, there was some young men that came up with an idea, and I supported them later on because there were 5 of them, and they decided that they want to open a car wash. So when they came to me and they were looking for a car washing machine, and I said, no, I do not have the capacity to buy for you the car washing machine for now. And then they told me something that later changed my perception about young men. They told me, okay, now listen, there's something you can afford that you can do for us, and it can help us open the car wash. I said, now what is that? He said, okay, all the 5 of us want to be doing shoe polishing, moving around with the shoe polishing, and they say they just need brushes and how do you call them, the kiwi, the shoe polish. So I literally accepted because it was such a small cost. So I bought for them like 2 different colors for each, and the brushes and a small bag that they carried with. So they kept on moving around for 2-3 months, and they were putting the money together and
to buy the machine.
So they, in 4 or 3 months, I don't remember well, they bought the machine. This was in 2022. They bought the machine, and then they delegated 2 boys to start the car wash stuff.
And they continued with the
other 3 continued. If you go now to that area, you'll find that they have 3 or how many machines, and that's the favorite place. That's where I wash my car most of the time, because they're grown boys now. By that time I think they were pretty young, but now they're big guys. So having seen the gap that they saw in the community, and they came up with a solution of making sure that the problem of having dirty cars around this area would be solved, and therefore they're able to get the money they need. Now they're able to really, some of them are at school, some of them are supporting their families. So what I can tell the young people is that business idea is not about reading them from the books or the textbook and so on. And there are chances that you might actually miss it if you expect to read it from the book, because the context from which those books are written are completely different from our own context. And just like the example I said, you see your own opportunity around your community, where to start by yourself or where to start from other small support from friends and relatives. And you could be in a position to prosper.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Elijah. Our broadcast time is 25 minutes past the hour of 4. Yes, listen of iRadio, if you have been following up the program and you have questions to our guest in the studio, our numbers are 0911 or 0922 986 986. You can call in and ask your question to the guest, and he'll be able to answer them. Also, those who are watching us on our Facebook live stream, you can drop your questions and comments there, and I'll be able to read them to our guest in the studio. And also, Elijah, on the issue of mentors, what role do you think mentors play in a young person's life, in your life as well? And what can you tell young people who look up to you as a role model for their dreams?
It's important to really note that mentors are extremely important, and I would also want to differentiate between the two, the mentors and the role models. The role models most of the times might be people that you've not even seen or not even met in person, but heard about them. You see them on the TV, or sometimes you can also see them around you, but not necessarily having a hand-on experience or a hand-on engagement with you directly. While on the other side, the mentors are the people that really take their time to invest in you and try to change your life in one way or the other. So, and the two has a lot of different impact, and they have different level of impacts on people. With the mentors, if you really have a mentor who takes his or her time to look into what you do, to invest his or her time in your affairs, advising you and try to take you through based on the experience they have, that has a big impact in terms of success. And for my case, I had a lot of different mentors who had supported me, who work for partner organizations, who have sat me down and said, listen, this is how you do it, and when you take it from here, this is how you go about it. So they're very important in young people's lives, and that becomes actually they become catalysts to the progress among young people. And for me, it's if someone look up to me as a role model, I really think it's something that I cannot take credit for. I thank God for it. But definitely, I believe if you go the right way, do the right thing, and work hard, definitely the chances are always high. Yeah.
Okay. And also, what industries do you or sectors do you see as most promising for medium, small, or micro enterprises in South Sudan, and how can they be utilized?
Yeah, I'll be biased in this question because normally it comes with interests. If you take Barry Johnson for an interview and ask about what are the opportunities that exist in South Sudan and how best they could be utilized, you might not be surprised us talking about how to set up a radio station.
Yeah.
So, which is something that could be. So, I will be unconsciously biased. But definitely, to me, I think I always like agriculture as my number one. It's an opportunity because. As I said before, money is a reward of solving somebody's problem. And there is one problem that is persistence in our life. If we are well off, we eat 3 times a day. If we are not very well off, we eat twice. And if we are in bad shape, we eat once a day. And if we are not able to eat once a day or eat after every 2 days, then it is not our choice, but sometimes desperate situation.
Yeah.
So this places agriculture on top of every other list because you will always have people eating. Yourself, your neighbors, everybody else will want food. So if you are able to produce food, you are sure it's going to be eaten. It's non-negotiable. It's an opportunity that there's nothing that can ever beat it. That's an opportunity, and that's the lowest hanging fruits for many young people. Why is it a lowest hanging fruit? I believe many young people across this country have access to traditional land, which is still now because if you look at per capita in South Sudan, we still have vast land which people can sit down. And more specifically for those places that do not have a lot of insecurity, you can just get there and till your land and have it done. Most of the time it does not require any financial resources to start that, because if you just go to your village today and pick up somebody else's stock of cassava, for example, the neighbor will always give you the stock of cassava, divide them into 20 and then bury them in the soil. That's all you need, and hope for the best that God brings the rains, and God loves South Sudan, so area is green. So that becomes just an easiest way. So agriculture is always my number one recommendation for young people who like to have some bit of business opportunities to look at. Now, if you are young people that are in city and would like to be city dwellers, I will not specifically recommend a particular business, but I will ask you to look around yourself and see what are the common things that are required in your area. You will find that you see the young mothers normally they put up this dalabia stuff and tami and all this, and then put them next to what? To the schools, because those children,
or next to the bakery,
yes. Those kind of stuff. So this kind of ideas differs from one location to another, and based on the needs of the of that community. You might actually want to open a car wash in a place where there's only one car. In a location where there is one car, so you are done. You get nothing. You will not make money out of that. So what I can encourage is that many of these young people should look around themselves, see what are the existing opportunities that they can actually take up. But agriculture is always my main.
Okay, let's go back to the point you raised. We talked about young people who have ideas but they don't have the finances to start up a business, and you gave us a good example of the boys in your area who wanted to start a car wash place but they didn't have that finance. It was an idea but there was no one to fund it for them. What about there are people who have the money but they don't have the idea? You find someone has that money which can start a very good business, but they will tell you I don't have a good business idea. So what would you tell them? How can they invest that?
Yeah, actually it is the most difficult thing to do, because if someone has the money and does not have an idea, it's very difficult to do, because advising someone that has a lot of money to really do something, is the hardest job on the planet Earth that you do. Because one thing is that you find in most cases people who have money and have no ideas found that money in a very fishy way. And either through some bit of shortcuts or some bit of corrupt deals, business deals, or people who have scammed the government of different contracts and so on and so forth. So if you find that these people have such nature of money in their head, there is a place in their head that registers that it is easier to get money in that manner that they got that money. So even themselves convincing them to really be creative becomes even difficult. But what I can say, for the purposes of maybe 1 out of 10 that might accept to invest the financial resources into this, there are a lot of low-hanging fruit for people with money. And the low-hanging fruits in this case, one of it in this country that has a lot of return on investment than any other place, maybe Switzerland is the only place that come close to that, is the real estate. And if you look at the real estate in South Sudan, you will agree with me, unless if you've never rented a house in Juba, but if you've rented a house in Juba, you will find a room like where we are now here, if it is self-contained and if it has
power,
and then it becomes between $300 and $500 a month. If that was to be in the same place, if you were given the same amount of money in Kampala or in Nairobi, you would rent a whole mansion with such amount of money. So that means if you invest in real estate in South Sudan, the return on investment in normal cases is between 3 to 5 years. You will have gotten the money of the construction or the building of the investment that you put on the building. So that's one of the lowest hanging fruit. The second lowest hanging fruit is buying of the food item and selling them, just having a wholesale. Yeah, all the beans and all the wheat flour and so on, because people are consuming that. Yeah, but if I were to be the creative one of all, if I were to sell at wholesale price, I would say I'll take things like that are almost usable on every day, like Pampers, for example, for kids.
Yeah.
How many are bought in a day? If you have a kid, like maybe a kid could use between 3, 4, or 5 in a day, and they will be used every day. So is that not a lower hanging fruit? Lower hanging fruits for sure. Yeah, and other areas of investment that many people have invested in, like of course those who like boutiques for women, those who like, because women product, of course, they move.
Yeah.
We men, we don't buy. We rarely buy things.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, and also Elijah, what policies or government initiative do you think will boost and support medium, small, and micro enterprises?
First of all, let's start with the policy level, at a very strategic level. And at very strategic level, I mean at the place where the core of the problem started, the judicial sector reform. Because if there's a reform in the judicial sector, we can have a permanent system for the title deed. So if you are able to access your land in a legal manner, have it registered with the registry, and have your title deed that is permanent. Because the problem here is a question of whether this land can be Barry Johnson's land, and Elijah cannot have access to the same land through corrupt means to be able to change Barry's name and have Elijah's name on it.
Yeah.
This is where the problem is, because if Barry Johnson have the title that she can give the bank for her to access the loan of $10,000, and when later on in 2 or 3 years she can decide to really counterfeit or change that document and sell it to another buyer, which of course now reduces the trust in the bank and the level of liability remain on the bank, then that's the first problem. So at the policy level, there is a need that need to be captured in terms of the collaterals at the judicial system, where we talk about the judicial service reform. That's one critical area that we need to look at. The second critical area is for the government to come up with policies that ensures that the entrepreneurs and businesses and the cooperative societies are empowered and built. And it could be intentional, because the government can literally invest. For example, there was an opportunity that came up where agriculture sector support was launched recently, and with the promise of about 62 million about there.
Yeah, 62 million.
62 million was released to ensure that support agriculture, and some tractors were bought. If such tractors, if the identification of the right people that does the farming are done at early stage, which are in normal case should be the young people that are doing the actual farming on ground, and they are empowered, it will bring about change. The challenge now is that, yes, you can have all the tractors that you bring about, but if they land in the wrong hands, and by wrong hands I mean the middlemen or middlewomen in this case, that are not necessarily farmers, but people who have established themselves as middlemen, and they could masquerade as farmers in order to have access to the tractors that are given by the government, and then they use them for their own personal interests without necessarily doing the cultivation themselves. Either going to sell them or going now to start afresh, trying to farm because they have an opportunity to have their hands on tractors. But it was not an original idea from them. You see the president, when the president donated the 1,000 tractors then, what happened? Some of them were packed and literally they died in those spots because they were in the hands of people who do not have the idea or the passion to do the farming itself. So I think that's one of the policies that need to be done. Young people need to be reached with these resources so that they are in a position to start agriculture and boost it. Yeah.
Okay, all right, and on the let's go back on the obstacles or the challenges again. You talked about challenges facing young people starting up a business. We have people who already have businesses, but you find that after some years maybe the business will face a bit of challenges. You find that the business did not go as planned. So what do you think are some of the challenges that is making businesses to die? And if you can share some of the few tips that you believe can also help people having businesses now to maintain it to the right direction.
There are two critical elements that stunt the growth of businesses or literally kill them most of the times. One of them is the inflation in the country. Is a critical factor. The level of inflation sometimes, brings about high costs brought about by the economic turmoil that the country is going through right now. If you look at business right now, given an example, I today buy this pen, a box at maybe $10 for a box that has 50, and maybe I bought it at SSP with the current price, which is in the private market right now is about 57. So if this is 5,000 or 57,000 pounds to buy a box of this, and I keep them in the shop, 2-3 days later on, now the dollar is trading at maybe 1,000 or 10,000, and if I'm not able to really cop up enough with the competition, and I still sell this or the entire box, because in my head I knew if I sell at 70,000 I was going to make a profit. So because it was bought at 57, you were going to make 13,000 pounds, and which would be a good profit margin. Now you have in a situation where you're going to sell it at 70,000, and when you return that same amount of money to go and buy another box, you will find that other box now is $100, which is 100,000, and you have 70,000. So you are at a loss already from that sense. That is normally brought about by the lack of production locally, because you will still need to access dollar for you to get this. Yeah. So by the time you return, you will find that you have only pen for $70 instead of for $7 instead of $10, which you sold. So you made a loss of $3. So the cost of the inflation is quite high and quite significant. Number two is lack of adequate knowledge or capacities among the young business people. If you're not well trained to be able to keep your books and balance your book properly, you will not know that by the time when the dollar when this is going to 10,000, you are supposed to be selling maybe at 13,000 just to make another 3,000 extra. So if you don't have such knowledge and be up to date with most of the information, you will find it difficult to survive in a market that has a lot of inflation. So level of knowledge and the level of inflation in the country normally kill businesses. The last one is lack of purchasing power in most cases. If you find that the entire country depends entirely on few people that have monthly salaries coming regular basis, it's difficult because there's no money in the economy. Because look at how many people are employed by the government in the organized forces and in the civil service, and if they go 13 months without pay, it means there's no money in the pockets of the people, and if there's no money, nobody buys anything. And if nobody buys anything and the owners of the lands want the money, you will find that you have all the money or the capital being paid for rent and being paid for other services that are required, statutory service by the government. So lack of purchasing power that comes about as a result of melting economy also affects this, and eventually businesses collapse. Last one, of course, definitely there are business miscalculations that you do where you invest in areas that are not areas of priority. And in that sense, you will find that it's not really what is needed now for a country, and if we are not ready for it. There are businesses ideas. If you go to East Africa, they're booming, but try them here.
Not here.
You will not make it. Like in East Africa, you can find a luxurious forest resort where people are doing skiing or people are doing the rope flying or all this kind of stuff. Do them in Juba? No way. Nobody's getting there because it's like it's a daily life for us. We're in the bushes by ourselves. I can just go to Kondokoro instead of trying to fly around everywhere.
Yes.
So those are some of the things that.
Okay. You talked about. Maybe some of the business owners, they don't balance well to cope up with the inflation in the market. So what are some of the few tips that you would love maybe to share with them on how they can really keep their businesses? I sometimes speak to business people and they give a lot of reasons why their business died. For example, they will say, my friends and family are the ones that killed my business. They come to the shop, they take things, they don't pay. They borrow and they don't return it back. So if you can also share some of the few tips with them on how they can really address some of these few challenges.
Yeah, I think when business and relationship mix, we are always in a difficult situation.
Yes.
And given that we are in a communal society where various things are our things.
Yes.
It becomes even more difficult to really do business in such an environment. However, there are always risks that comes with businesses, and there are always principles that need to be maintained when people are doing business. And if you have principles and stand by them, you are most likely to succeed in business, ensuring that business is business and family is family. And the Arabs have a very good analogy on that. We say, let's eat as brothers and trade as business people.
Yes.
Yeah. So when we're trading, we are business people.
We are business people.
And
yes.
when we're dealing with money, we are business people. But when we eat, we are family.
Yes.
So when Barry has made her money and she have something small for herself now, she can call me Fadal and then we go eat, we enjoy her money. But it is not necessarily going to a shop and pick up all those dresses in the name that, because if she doesn't, then who will do that? So that's one thing at the family level. Also on the inflation side, it's a businessman advice that I can give, and it's normally not a good thing for consumers. Yeah, but normally if you want to get out of this, definitely you will always need to, if your commodity is something that rely on the dollar rate, make sure you are updated with your dollar rate every other time, because that's the only way you can survive. If you get this at $1, make sure that you sell it at 1.1, 1.2, depending on what kind of profit you want to make, and given the taxes and other things. Yeah. Once you've calculated that, you should be able to be updated, because tomorrow and today, if it is the $1 today, I'm selling it at $1 today, and it is 5,700 pounds. I should be able to maintain the same value tomorrow, and which is sometimes unfortunate, because it is sometimes abused by business people, because I bought it at $1 today. $1 is 5,700. Tomorrow $1 is 4,200, and I still sell it at 5,700. This is where the abuse come in.
Yeah.
But literally, if business have monitoring mechanisms by the government and they have ethics as business people, they should be able to maintain at least the margin, the profit margin that is acceptable with the international standards.
Okay. All right. Let's go through some of the comments on our Facebook live stream. And we have Malothiong. He says he's watching live from Kenya. We have Gatluak David K. He says, happy seeing you there, doing a great job across South Sudan. And then we also have Majo Koryompaka. He says, greetings to Elijah and you in the studio. Thank you so much. And we also have another comment from someone called John Mayol. He says, having worked for young people to be self-reliant, as you said earlier, having specifically worked to empower youth and young women, and he's asking, what do you think will connect you more to the community that you had already participated with that, contesting for Bor top youth seats? Okay. I think that's his question. I hope you got it. You
come again for that?
Yes, he was asking, what do you think will connect you more to the community that you had already participated with contesting for the position at the Bor Youth, the Bor Community Youth Association seat? That is what he's asking for. So what do you think will connect you more to the community? That is his question. Okay, thank you. I think Elijah will pick that up to answer your question. And then we have Pire Alith Yuang Lual. He says, agriculture is so important and must be our future's priority. Okay, thank you so much for that. Thank you all for your nice comments. We'll not be able to read all of them because of time. But I think, Elijah, you can maybe answer that one question. And then from there, I'll give you the chance to share your last message.
Yeah, for John, thank you for that question. I believe, yes, I participated in the community for a very long time. I've been supporting the community and the youth initiatives, but at different parameters. That's so what I believe would be able to connect me to the young people and the community more while contesting for the BCYS seats, compared to how I have done so in different platforms such as SADO. Is that at SADO there are donor-driven project, donor-based project that work under certain kind of parameters, which do not necessarily become so flexible when you're dealing with them, and there might be community needs or community approaches that are not incompatible, that are a little bit incompatible with the donor policies on handling some of these activities, and such kind of lack of flexibility sometimes bring about difficulties. But when you are with the youth or when you are with the community, you are able to really design programs in the way that the communities will understand them. And I have two great examples that I can share. At one point, we were talking about we're advocating about the issue of child marriages in different communities. And when it comes to pastoralist communities on how to stop the child marriages, it is a difficult topic to have a conversation with around it. So with the communities. So we decided to do it our way at one point. And one of the key messaging that we took to the community became widely accepted in many of the communities and it was brought about by people in the church, and their argument made a lot of sense. And when they made argument, they gave examples of some young girls who were married off at a very tender age, and they later on had difficulty in giving birth. Unfortunately, some of them passed away in that situation, and it became very difficult. So the argument came up with a health negative impact of having a young girl getting married off at a very young age and her body not ready to be able to conceive babies and so on. So this conversation, when it was brought to the community, they saw it from a sense that, okay, wait a minute, so we are exposing our children to this kind of risk. in comparison to how such kind of campaign was done the other year, that was purely based on the legal and punitive measures that comes around not being 18 years, and if you're going to do this, you married off your daughter before 18 years, you're going to be punished, and so on and so forth. So these communities will be like, okay, if it is somebody who have never gone to school or do not understand the benefits, they'll be like, okay, wait a minute, this is my daughter, and I can decide on it.
Yeah.
I married a mother with a lot of cows. So you have not brought this person into a conversation where he or she understands that this is actually important for herself and for a child.
Yeah.
So the conversation with the community and done in a way that that particular context of that community is very important. So that is why I think having me getting involved into the grassroots level to try as much as possible, as I said before, it's a behavioral change question. How do I work with young people in a way that we can use our own local context and local language to change a certain behavior in people and then help them actually transform their life for better?
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Our time is 53 minutes past 4. We have another question that came in our Facebook live stream. Someone called Solomon Jalang, Achek Jalang. He says, given your experience in the business in South Sudan, can you kindly share a tip regarding possibilities for startups in the pharmaceutical sector for young people? So he is asking about setting up a pharmacy as a young person. If there are tips you can share, maybe if you can make it brief because we are running out of time.
Yeah, thank you so much. I will not have a precise answer to that, but pharmaceutical, of course, just like any other business that relies on buying and selling of items, will definitely need a bit of knowledge, skills in that field, and definitely will need some bit of small level of capital in order to buy those drugs. But in most cases, I think you can literally walk into big pharmacies that sells at wholesale price, maybe have agreement with them, be an agent, be selling, distributing those drugs at a certain percentage until such a time that you have something for yourself to be able to buy your own drugs and then distribute them to the retailers. That could be an opportunity.
Okay. And we also have someone called Dengtel Junior Mayen. He's asking that I wanted Elijah to talk about young students who venture into technology. That is, I don't understand if it's a question or maybe he wants you to highlight some tips for young students who are venturing into technology.
I think technology is the way to go, and young people now are obsessed with technology, and with the current the role that AI is trying to play now in our different lives, and how that can be converted. Such kind of energies could be converted, and skills could be converted to something that could be productive. Many young people now are running Facebook pages that are promoting products. Some of them has media pages that promotes events and cultures and so on.
Yes. Now,
it's just a matter of converting them into commercializing them in a way that if they understand the business component of that, they can be in a position to earn some resources out of that. I am cognizant of many people that are running Facebook pages that are more popular and that have a lot of likes, and sometimes they are approached by different small companies to be able to sell. So marketing could be an ideal way that they can deal with it. With the use of technology such as the use of AI to create some critical adverts for different companies. Even when you're seated with your mobile phone, you can be in a position to do that. So young people are both opportunities. All
right. Okay. I'm giving you this chance, Elijah, just to share your last message as we conclude with the program to young people, those who want to start businesses. What would you tell them?
Yeah, I'll say two things. One will be for young people that are into businesses, and the other one will be a call for my contest. One, of course, as I always say in many of my speeches, that to the young people of South Sudan, no one is coming to save you. You must be there to save yourself. Get out there, think about how to change your lives, and be persistent. Miles Munro once said that successful people are not superhumans. They are ordinary human beings with extraordinary persistence and self-determination to ensure that they achieve their goals. So let all of you be good dreamers. Let all of you be hardworking people. Let all of you try as much as possible to change your life, because no one is coming to change it. My second message, of course, goes to the Bor Community Youth Association's membership, of course, with this particular offer, where I'm requesting all of them. Basically, I would ask them to vote for me to ensure that I give them the service that they need and all the opportunities that might come with my leadership, and maybe with transformation of our association into something that could be beneficial to our whole community and society.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Elijah, and also our sign language interpreter, Grace Ampiko. It was an interesting discussion, and we meet again next Saturday for another discussion right here on this Zone 72. Until then, have a nice evening.
It's a Baghdad Diamond when it's my iRadio.